Welcome, and as you see, we are here to celebrate Mark Pelletier in his appointment as the J.L. Ankeney MD Professor of Cardiothoracic Surgery. And I'm delighted that we have the extensive Pelletier family, except for ones in Europe, and Julie Clayman here to help us celebrate. And I'm delighted with the turnout from our cardiovascular group and cardiac surgery group. So it really is nothing more exciting for a dean than to preside over an endowed professorship ceremony, and this certainly is a good example of that. It allows us to celebrate our best, brightest, and most impacting faculty, and I hope where we don't yet have that opportunity, we will in the future. Obviously, it's hard to keep good faculty at any institution, but hopefully tethering them with an endowed professorship helps them remind themselves as well as ourselves about how important institutions are and commitments of high qualities of academic performance and interests. The oldest record of professorship goes back to the Renaissance. In my recollection, it's King Henry VIII in 1540, who started the Regius Chair in civil law at Oxford University. The oldest in the U.S. is the Hollis Professorship of Mathematics and Natural Philosophy. As often happens over decades and centuries, those professorships migrate. Currently, it's held by Dr. Karen King in the Divinity School at Harvard. I'm not sure that Dr. Hollis would have imagined that a woman would ever hold his professorship, but gladly that has happened. The oldest chair at Case is the Hanna family, and there are two, one in 1901, and the Payne-Hanna Professorship. Old families tend to get together, was established in 1906. There are currently 125 professorships in the School of Medicine, many of them in the last 15 or so years, including what we've now just concluded, which is a matched professorship from an anonymous alumnus of ours. So we're delighted with that. Obviously, professorships come individually with the incredible effort of our alums, our benefactors, and our friends who commit to our support for academic freedom and the importance of academic prowess and academic creativity. So as we move our school forward, it's obvious to me that we need that alignment of our support for our faculty and support for our endowed professorships with our mission, which is to improve global health by linking research to populations in a superb educational environment. And here in Cleveland, that environment is the Faculty of Medicine, over 3,400 faculty across our 5 campuses. And we're lucky to be in a unique situation to be able to do that. So today, as we celebrate Jay Ankeney and his professorship in cardiothoracic surgery, let me just remind you about Jay. He was a graduate of our School of Medicine, a professor pioneer in cardiothoracic surgery. He received his BA from Ohio Wesleyan, so really stayed within the state. His MD from Western Reserve in 1945. He did his internship at University Hospitals and then went off to the Naval Academy as a lieutenant from 1946 to 1948, came back for a general residency in surgery. He then continued thoracic surgery training at Bellevue and Presbyterian hospitals in New York, and then studied with Jack Gibbons in cardiac surgery. He returned here in 1955 and spent the rest of his career here. He was appointed director of the Division of Cardiothoracic Surgery at University Hospitals, a position he held between 1974 and 1986. He had a distinguished career nationally as well as president of the Society of Thoracic Surgeons and the American Board of Thoracic Surgery from 1971 to 1980. And under his leadership, that board created the current syllabus for the recertification of thoracic surgeons. He was responsible for developing the open heart and thoracic surgery residency programs here at university hospitals. I knew Jay. He was an imposing figure, a focused, serious surgeon. When he walked in the room, everybody listened. His opinions carried the day, and although I never spent time in the operating room with him, I hate to think he was probably pretty impactful. And he has been a long-standing friend of both the school and of university hospitals. And in 1994, the school established the J.L. Ankeney MD Professorship with the lead gift from Dr. Ankeney himself. He passed away in December of 2014, but he left behind an incredible legacy. As I mentioned, the cardiothoracic residency program. He himself developed the sternal retractor, widely used by surgeons or perhaps maybe residents in the operating room who get to hold for a long time. In 1969, he became one of the first surgeons to bypass the use of the heart-lung machine while performing coronary artery bypass surgery, and realized that that was a way to reduce operative time, recovery time, hospital time, and outcomes for patients. Now, he has survived, and today we're delighted to have Julie Clayman here with us, who in her own right was an outstanding thoracic surgeon, a class of 66 graduate of our medical school. I've also worked directly with Julie when she was an active surgeon as part of my time as director of the Ireland and then Seidman Cancer Centers. And she was the go-to person for lung cancer and esophageal cancer. So these flowers are for you to pick up on your way out and home. And I want to thank you for being here to carry on the family tradition. Now I'm about to turn the podium over to introduce Dr. Pelletier through Drs. Sheshabor and Dr. Sabik. But as I was getting myself to know Mark and his upbringing in New Brunswick, Canada, I thought I'd just take a minute, since I love 2 degrees of separation, to point out that my nephew married a wonderful woman from St. Andrews, New Brunswick. But also I'd just like to let you indulge, if I could, in my time in those great areas up in the north. So here's my invitation letter in November of 1976, when I asked William Shockley, who was the chair of radiology at the Peter Brand Brigham, if I could do my externship as a medical student with the International Grenfell Society, which you can see here that Doug Heath allowed me to do so and got me a flight up. So next slide, if I could. In January 1977, I arrived in Goose Bay Harbor, which most of us in that generation knew of only as an Air Force base during the Second World War. And I went to the little town of Happy Valley, spent a couple weeks there getting oriented, and I realized that it never got above -20 Fahrenheit. The global warming's happening, but at that time it was pretty chilly. So I spent 2 months, next slide, meandering around the coastal villages. And this graphic shows you New Brunswick. Off to the left then is Newfoundland, and then up the coast is Labrador. And you can see that somebody has articulated around that time these small little villages of 700 to 1,000, at that time called Eskimos, but Inuits, Caucasians, and Native Indians. The Indian tribes sort of migrated. The local Inuit community stayed put and then went fishing during the summertime. There was no health care. So the Grenfell Society provided all of the health care. It was an English organization, and they had nursing stations up the coast. So what an incredible opportunity. So I showed up in Nain, And I was the doc. There wasn't anybody else there. Next slide. So, what do you do when it's January and the sun's out for about 6 hours a day? So I collected all the data that I could, and I documented the beta strep infections that they had. And when people are all indoors, guess what? They get strep infections. Next slide. And then for 2 weeks, Frank Timmerman showed up. He was doing a locum tenens with the Grenfell Society. And we realized that there was a real problem with otitis media infection in the Inuit children, so not the native Caucasians or the native Indian populations, but specifically the Inuit children. And we documented about a 40% incidence of otitis media in the age group of about 3 to 11. And we were smart enough to realize that they had introduced the Hudson Bay store 11 years earlier, which brought up evaporated milk and bottles. So the mothers went from breastfeeding to bottle feeding, and they didn't like the evaporated milk, so they added sugar. So there you have it. So we published that, and that was one of my early publications. So without further ado, at least I have an appreciation of where Mark grew up. So now I'd like to introduce Dr. Mehdi Sheshebor, professor of medicine at Case Western, president of the Hospital's Harrington Heart and Vascular Institute, and the Angela and James Hembrick Chair of Innovation. And he is an innovator. I just had a conversation educating myself about his interventional effort in limb salvage, which he and a large group around the country published in the New England Journal. And I just commented that I'm about to refer a complex patient to him, which I'm sure he will do well by. Prior to joining Mehdi was the Cleveland Clinic's endovascular program director for 8 years, trained more than 40 interventional fellows and more than 400 physicians nationally in this limb salvage technique. So I'm going to have Mehdi introduce, and then he will bring forward Dr. Sabik. Thank you.
It's always nice when you get a referral in these events, so that's a nice one. I didn't anticipate that. Well, Dean Gerson, Dr. Simon, Dr. Kleiman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure to welcome you here this evening for this special celebration for the J. Ankeney Endowed Professorship in Cardiothoracic Surgery at Case Western Reserve University. Tonight, we acknowledge the accomplishment of a superior heart surgeon, Dr. Mark Pelletier. After me, Dr. Joe Sabik will outline Mark's accomplishments and qualifications. I have a small part in this, and I'm going to focus on Mark's impact at University Hospital and specifically around the Harrington Heart and Vascular Institute. Dr. Pelletier joined us at University Hospitals and Case Western Reserve 4 years ago from Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, where he was one of Mass General Brigham leading heart surgeon. He was recruited here by Dr. Joe Sabik, which will be introducing him, the Oliver Payne Professor of Surgery at Case Western Reserve University and UH Surgeon-in-Chief, and he himself, obviously, an extraordinary heart surgeon, world-renowned. The story that I'm going to tell you is after Mark arrived here. Shortly after Mark arrived, we set on a journey, a challenging one that had been attempted by many, in my opinion, but rarely successfully executed. And the journey that we had set on was to create a Heart and Vascular Institute that provided the highest level of compassion and care in our communities, but had importantly the same quality and the reputation of the main campus. We know that there's a lot of community heart programs, but how can you create a program that encompasses the quality and the reputation across the system? We wanted a group of elite cardiac surgeons, vascular surgeons, and cardiologists to check their egos at the door and put the patient at the center of the care. We wanted to create a true systemness and interdisciplinary care, a patient-centric approach to healthcare. In the short term, Dr. Pelletier, with the support of Dr. Joe Sabik, recruited over 8 cardiac surgeons, some of the most talented, kindest, and compassionate individuals you will ever meet. We have created a true spoke and hub model with centralized quality and operations, while running 6 cardiac surgery programs across Northeast Ohio. When everyone said it couldn't be done, there are too many centers, they're going to be small programs, you're not going to have the experience. Mark and our team created one-of-a-kind centralized cardiac surgery program. Whether you got your surgery at Parma or Elaria, whether you got it at Ahuja or Lake, whether you got it at the main campus, you got the same surgeon, the same first assist, and the same perfusionist. The incredible team working closely with cardiologists and interventionalists, all with the focus of providing the highest level of care for our patients, regardless of the location where the operation was being done. I'm proud to say that under Mark's leadership, our cardiac surgery volume has grown 25% just in the last 2 years. And while we reached quality levels that have never been seen at UH before, indeed, our LVAD, that's a left ventricular assist device for patients that have severe heart failure, and heart transplant program that have had a rolling 100% survival in the last 12 months under Mark's and our team's leadership. As Dr. Simon said to me, and I quote, "We have the best cardiac surgery program I have worked with during my 30+ years of cardiology career at Boston and Cleveland. Congratulations to Mark and our incredible Harrington Heart and Vascular team." Well, I can go on and on about our Harrington Heart and Vascular Institute and Mark's impact and the team of surgeons that we have here. But there is one thing, Mark, that really makes you special. It makes you an incredible leader, in my opinion. Yes, you obviously have that deep voice, that nice accent, that Canadian accent or whatever it is. You're articulate and you're very dynamic. You're kind and you're compassionate. And obviously, you're technically excellent. But there is one thing that few leaders possess that Mark has mastered, and I try to learn from him. Mark, your selfless commitment to your team and our HBI is unique and special. Your ability to create passion and direction for a group of cardiac surgeons from all over the world is rarely seen. We are honored to have you as a UH colleague, and I hope you will join me today in welcoming Dr. Pelletier and his family here tonight. UH has over 150 endowed chaired and master clinicians which help recruit and retain the best medical and surgical experts devoted in providing the state of the care, training the next generation, and leading impactful research activities. Endowed positions represent prestige, leadership, and great responsibility for our distinguished shareholders. These perpetual funds enhance clinical discovery and medical education, both of which are essential to the future of medicine. I can think of no one more deserving of this honor than Dr. Pelletier. Mark, your work as a cardiac surgeon is saving lives. We applaud your dedication and are thrilled to celebrate this career milestone with you. Now, they gave me the tough task, Dr. Simon, of introducing Dr. Sabik, which itself could be another 6-page of introduction. But for the sake of the event, I'm going to keep it short, as many of you know Dr. Sabik and his accomplishments. Dr. Sabik, as I mentioned earlier, is the Oliver H. Payne Professor of Surgery at Case Western Reserve University. He's a UH Surgeon-in-Chief and a world-renowned surgeon who will speak on behalf of Dr. Pelletier. But importantly, he's been a friend and a colleague for many years, both when we were at Cleveland Clinic and now at the University Hospital. Joe, thank you very much.
It's always hard to follow Mehdi. Friends, good afternoon. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Marc Pelletier, the recipient of the J.L. Ankeney Endowed Professorship in Cardiothoracic Surgery at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. As you know and heard from Dean Gerson, Dr. Ankeney was a professor of thoracic surgery at Western Reserve University, before it was Case Western Reserve University, and director of the Division of Cardiothoracic Surgery at university hospitals. Dr. Ankeney is widely regarded as a pioneer in the field of heart surgery. He was a surgical innovator, leader, and educator. I can think of no other candidate better suited to hold the Ankeney chair than Dr. Pelletier. As you will learn, he is a surgical leader, innovator, and educator. A native of Canada, Dr. Pelletier attended Mount Allison University in New Brunswick, where he earned a Bachelor's of Science with honors in organic chemistry, and Dalhousie University in Halifax, where he earned his medical degree. He continued his education as a surgical resident at McGill University. During his 4th year of surgical training, Dr. Pelletier transitioned to the Integrated Cardiac Surgery Training Program. In addition to doing his surgical training while at McGill, he also completed a Master's of Science in Experimental Surgery. After finishing his surgical training, he moved to Stanford University, where he completed a 1-year fellowship in cardiac transplantation and mechanical assist devices. At Stanford, he had the opportunity to learn from cardiac surgery legends, such as Norm Shumway and Bruce Reitz. During his medical school and surgical education, he received numerous honors and awards, including the Letterly Essay Contest on Surgical Education, the Edward Charette Prize in Cardiac Surgery Research, the Thoracic Surgery Directors Association Award, not only in 1998, but also in 1999, and the Best Paper Award by a resident from the Canadian Journal of Surgery. And not surprisingly, he received the highest score on the Royal College Board exam in 2000. As you may have noticed, from early on in his career, he has excelled. After finishing his training, Dr. Pelletier joined the University of Toronto as an assistant professor of surgery and cardiac surgeon at Sunnybrook and Women's College Health Sciences Center. During his early professional career, he was a very busy academic surgeon. He performed nearly 300 cardiac operations a year, developed a thoracic endovascular graft program, started a minimally invasive vein harvesting program, and established a basic science lab and obtained peer review funding in stem cell transplantation. Quite an accomplishment for an early surgeon. In 2004, he decided to return to Stanford University and work with his previous mentors. At Stanford, he joined the Cardiothoracic Surgery Transplant Laboratory, where he published extensively in the field of stem cell transplantation, immunotherapy, and cardiothoracic transplantation. At Stanford, he also had his first clinical leadership opportunity as director of the Stanford Cardiac Surgery Program at El Camino Hospital, where he grew the program by over 50% in 3 years. In 2006, he became the chair of surgery at El Camino Hospital. During this time at Stanford, Dr. Pelletier received notoriety for his groundbreaking work with the Berlin heart LVAD in children. Based on a strong desire to raise his 4 children closer to home and his family, in 2007, he returned to Canada. At age 37, he became chief of cardiac surgery at the New Brunswick Heart Center. In this role, he not only stabilized, but grew the cardiac surgery program. He emphasized the importance of bilingualism and oversaw quality improvements and the introduction of many innovative cardiac surgery techniques, including endoscopic vein harvesting, minimally invasive valve and coronary artery bypass, and transcatheter aortic valve replacement. While chief at the New Brunswick Heart Center, he received the Specialist of the Year award by the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. He was nominated for Canada's Top 40 under 40 and served as both the vice chair and chair of the examination board in cardiac surgery of the Royal College of Surgeons of Canada. And by the way, in his spare time, he managed to serve as a coach on each of his son's hockey team. Is that true? Did he have time to do that? I don't see how. In 2016, he returned to the United States and joined Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard Medical School as Associate Professor of Surgery and Surgical Director of the Structural Heart Program. He became the busiest cardiac surgeon at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, earning RateMD's #1 rating among 116 cardiac surgeons in Boston. He received the Lawrence H. Cohn Teaching Award in Cardiac Surgery and was nominated for the Partners Healthcare Outstanding Mentor Award in 2018. I don't know how, but in 2019, we were fortunate to recruit Mark as our Chief of Division of Cardiac Surgery at University Hospitals and Professor at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. He is the Director of Heart Surgery in the Heart and Vascular Institute and leads a cardiac surgery program that today performs nearly 1,900 heart procedures at 5 different hospitals with 10 cardiac surgeons, 16 perfusionists, and 16 first assistants. I think, as Mehdi told you, he's a phenomenal leader. During his tenure, our academic cardiac surgery program continues to excel clinically and academically. He has been responsible for the introduction of many innovative surgical procedures, and quality has never been better, with our coronary surgery mortality under 1% at Cleveland Medical Center. That is an incredible accomplishment. Our research programs are expanding, and our education program is excelling in getting some of the brightest residents to train with us under his guidance. As you can see, similar to Dr. Ankeney, Dr. Pelletier is a surgical leader, innovator, and educator. During his 20-year career, for 17 of those, he has either been chief of a division or director of a major program. As an innovator and researcher, he has pioneered and introduced the latest cardiac surgery procedures. He's developed a funded science lab and was incredibly productive in the field of transplantation. His work has led to over 100 published peer-reviewed papers, many of those having won prestigious awards at national and international society meetings. As an educator, he has trained over 50 surgical residents. At the University of Toronto, he was director of surgical labs for cardiac training, and while at Stanford, he worked with Dr. Michael Fishbein to design an integrated 6-year cardiothoracic surgery resident program, one of the first in the United States. He was awarded the prestigious Lawrence Cohn Award for teaching. In summary, Dr. Pelletier is a leader in the field of cardiac surgery, having excelled as an innovator, researcher, and educator. As the J. Ankeney Professor in Cardiothoracic Surgery at Case Western Reserve University, I know he will continue his contributions in academic cardiac surgery. And as I said earlier, I can think of no one more worthy than Dr. Pelletier for this chair. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Mark.
I think that's it. I should just go home now. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. It's really nice to see you all here, and it's really a nice day for me and our division and my family, so thank you for sharing this day with me. And thank you, Dean Gerson, thank you, Mehdi, thank you, Joe, for the really nice introductions. To Dr. Ankeney for donating to this chair and his family, and Dr. Clayman, we really enjoyed our evening with you a few weeks ago, and thank you for being here today. I'd like to share a few things with you today, and I'll try to be brief. As I was putting slides together, I realized I had way too many, but a lot of them are photo slides that I hope that you'll enjoy, so we'll go through those relatively quickly. This is Dr. Ankeney and Dr. Clayman when they were together. And Dr. Ankeney, as I got to know a lot about him, I thought a lot of his accomplishments have been discussed already, but some of them I think merit special attention. Specifically, two papers that he authored when he was here at Case Western on transposition of the great vessels, which really changed that field. But more importantly, his 200 off-pump procedures in 1975, where he really started to talk about doing limas to the LAD off-pump, vein grafts to the RCA off-pump. Nobody was doing that, and nobody really did that again for about 20 years until it became widely published. He was a 16th president of the STS, and as you know, for Case and UH, we'll have another president of the STS, Dr. Sabik, in about a year and a half. So for an institution to have two STS presidents is quite outstanding. So congratulations, Joe, on this upcoming event. I also noticed a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting about Dr. Ankeney and where there was a little bit of synergy. First of all, he excelled in swimming. And that was a huge part of my life when I was young, and in fact left home at the age of 14 to billet and because of swimming. He trained at Bellevue in the 1950s on the heart-lung machine, which is where Missy's dad was exactly at the same time training at Bellevue during the same year. So I don't know if they knew each other. They're both deceased at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they worked together at the time, which I thought was pretty neat. He was on the American Board of Thoracic Surgery as a recertification specialist, and that's something that I did quite a bit with the Royal College. He pioneered off-pump grafting procedures, and we now have Dr. Rudavega and the entire team, Dr. Gray, doing a ton of these procedures, one of the biggest centers in the country from a mid-cap procedure. The chair was established in 1994, which is the year I graduated from medical school, and he was an avid golfer. Hopefully he was a bit better than I am. So I was asked to share my story, and please allow me to indulge a few things in terms of where I'm from, and much of it has been said already, but this is where I'm from. I'm from Edmundston, New Brunswick, which is right on the border of Maine and Quebec. I grew up in a French household, and I spoke French with a very thick French accent until maybe 14 or 15 there, and then I eventually lost it. I grew up in a really nice town of Edmundston, about 10,000 people. It was a great place to live. And when people ask you what breaks that you had in life, I had the greatest break of all, which is to have two parents who were supportive, who would allow me to think that I could do anything that I wanted to as long as I put my mind to it and I worked hard. And there's no better great break in life than to have parents that love you and support you throughout everything that you do. I grew up with two sisters. There's my sister Dani, who unfortunately is no longer with us today. In fact, she would have been 50 just a few weeks ago. My other sister, Mylène, lives in Montreal and has 3 boys and is an accomplished Argentinian tango dancer, and now works managing a marina in administration. And this is a picture of our 4 boys and Mylène's 3 boys just during the recent holidays that we had a chance to spend together, which we don't always get enough of that time. I didn't really want to be a heart surgeon when I was a kid. I just wanted to be a shortstop for the Red Sox, but I couldn't hit the curveball, so I had to settle for something else. And swimming was a big part of my life. And in fact, as I said, at the age of 14, when I was going into grade 11, I left home for 2 years so I could billet with another family and swim and go to Canada Games, which was my passion when I was a kid. And I swam through college. Missy and I both went to Mount Allison University. Our oldest son went there. Great little college town, about 2,000 students. And being 16 when I started there, it was a good place to go, and it was really nice place to mature. I then went to Dalhousie for medical school in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and had a great experience there. But the most important thing that happened to me there is I met the most important person in my life, my best friend, and it's been it's just over 30 years in March since our first date. And Missy and I have had just an amazing life together, and with our family and with our kids. And whether we've been in San Francisco or New Brunswick or Boston, we've always found time to have just a great, and we've been blessed with good health and great kids. So we had our first 3 boys, and then we had a little break before we had Benny, and they were, as they look there, quite mischievous. And it was always very tough to keep an eye on them. Over the years, we try to take a picture pretty much at the same spot every year, and you'll see that as the years have gone on, they get a little bit older, but they keep smiling. And this is this past summer with all 4 boys. Our oldest is Will. He's not with us today. Will is currently in Tokyo, living in Shinjuku. He just finished his master's in political science at the University of London last year. He speaks, writes, and reads Japanese fluently, and is having just a wonderful time right now in Tokyo. Robert is our second boy. It's one of my favorite pictures of you. Robert's graduated from architecture a couple weeks ago at McGill. He'll be spending the summer at Berkeley, and we're very proud of where Robert's going to go. Our third boy is Matthew. Matthew's 21. Matthew just graduated from Dalhousie also in biochemistry, was the president of his biochemistry class. And we look forward to great things from Matthew. And last but not least, Benny. Benny's at Shaker with all his medals last year from sailing. And just be careful because he just got his license yesterday. So stay off the sidewalks. We are now in Cleveland, and we cannot be happier. We love Cleveland. Never knew what a hidden gem this city and this group of people could be for us. And you've welcomed us, and it's become our home. After Dal, I did go to McGill, and at McGill, I had a chance to work with one of the most influential people in my life, Dr. Chu, who you see here on the right, and this is Denton Cooley when he was our visiting professor. Dr. Chu was my supervisor during my master's thesis, an unbelievable gentleman originally from Taiwan, and a friend and a real mentor. He passed away a few years ago. The other person who had a tremendous impact on my life at McGill was Dave Mulder. Dave Mulder has been the surgeon-in-chief there for many years, the head doctor for the Montreal Canadiens, an unbelievable, unflappable surgeon, the kind of surgeon that as he's walking down the hall, if gynae has a problem, they call Mulder. If general surgery has a problem, they call Mulder. He's just an unbelievable human being. From McGill, we did go to Stanford to do a fellowship at Stanford, and I had a chance there to work with 2 other influential people that had a really big impact in my life. Norm Shumway at the time was retired from clinical practice, but was at work every single day in his office and would interact with us all the time. And I got to be good friends with Dr. Shumway because one morning he asked me if I wanted to go golf with him. It turns out it was him, the chair of surgery, and the dean of the medical school. So I must have done okay because at the end of the round he said, hey, Pelletier, we're playing again tomorrow. You're coming? So I think that was okay, but with 3 young kids at home, that didn't last that long. Here you see at the rounds, Dr. Shumway is there on the left, and he would be at every single transplant rounds, listening in on everything that we said and everything that we did. And the other individual who played a really big role in my life, who I have unbelievable respect for, is Bruce Wrights. Bruce was the chairman at Johns Hopkins and was the chairman at Stanford when I was there. He did the first heart-lung transplant in the world, and just an unbelievably gracious human being, always quiet and calm in the operating room, and somebody that I really tried to learn from as much as possible. But as we were living in California, and we loved it there, we felt that our family and our roots were back east. The boys were getting a little bit older, and we wanted to get back and be closer to home. And so we packed up at the time. Ben had just been born, so the 4 boys, the dog, the Toyota Sienna minivan, the Thule roof rack, and we drove the 3,600 miles across the country, which was really fun, actually, overnight. I know it sounds bad, but it was awesome. And along the way, we drove, I remember this very clearly, we were driving on the I-90 through Cleveland. I had never been through Cleveland, and it was Jacobs Field at the time, and I remember thinking, what a beautiful ballpark, and what a nice city, but I had never been, and I didn't know that it would take me here again. At the New Brunswick Heart Center, I had the chance to lead a wonderful group of surgeons and work in my home province, and we did great things, but at some point I yearned to come back to the US and had the chance to come back to Boston and was offered a position at Harvard and at Brigham, and I felt that that was a really good landing zone to come back to the US. And I really didn't think that I would come or leave Boston, and then I was asked to come and look at a job at university hospitals. And I remember I was leaving home and Missy said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to Cleveland." And she said, "Cleveland?" I said, "Don't worry, darling, there's no way we're moving to Cleveland." But I wanted to come to Cleveland. There were a couple reasons. As I was telling people there that I was looking at Cleveland, they all kept telling me about Dan Simon. "Oh, this guy's awesome. He's amazing." And I didn't know Dan, but I did know of two other people. And really there was one big reason that I wanted to come and look at the job, and that was Joe Sabik and Alan Markowitz. I knew of Joe and how good of a surgeon he was and his reputation internationally. And I knew of Alan, and everybody talked about Alan as this spark plug who was this amazing surgeon out here in Cleveland. And I thought, I can't say no to just go and have a look. And when I came, I found a place that was unbelievably dynamic. And Joe has not just been for me an unbelievable chair, for me as a division chief to have a chair who's a cardiac surgeon, somebody that I can lean on and I can get his advice, and to know that he's going to be the STS president and how much that helps everybody. And he's become a very good friend. And Alan Markowitz is not here. He's hiking in the Dolomites at the age of 79. And this is us this past year skiing in Vail with Alan. I can't tell you how much I love Alan and everything that he represents. And he sent me a very nice note and felt bad that he couldn't be here. But, you know, when you're standing somewhere on a podium like this, you're really only here because of the people that are around you. And I want to take a few minutes and talk about my colleagues, because everything that I do or am is because of these people. Yakov is, apart from Alan and Joe, is the longest tenured surgeon here and was here when we arrived. Yakov's an amazing guy. He's chief of the VA. He's head of our lung transplant program. He never says no. If you call him at 3 a.m. and you need a little bit of help, he'll be hopping in his Wrangler and he'll be there in no time flat. Chris Baeza is special in my heart because Chris had really just started at the same time that I did. He started in April and I started in August. And Chris is just a remarkable human being, a really good friend, an amazing surgeon. The other day he pops in my OR. It's 10:30 in the morning. He's already done ascending aorta replacement, AVR, hemiarch. And I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He was already done. So Chris leads our aortic program and our TAVR program. And then all the other people are people that we've been able to recruit, unbelievably talented people. Yasser Abu Omar was chair of transplantation at Cambridge and Papworth. He leads our transplant program now. An unbelievably good friend, talented surgeon, unbelievably smart guy. Pablo Ruda Vega, who's here, we were able to recruit Pablo, who had trained in Argentina at the clinic. And Pablo, as all of you know, everybody loves Pablo. He's just a great surgeon, does amazing things. The MidCap program that he's grown is now, I think, the 4th biggest in the country. And he leads our regional programs. And he and his wife, Laura, have 4 amazing kids, and their whole family is awesome. Kelsey, we were able to recruit after she trained with us. And we could not recruit Kelsey. She's just awesome, really good technical surgeon. I think the sky is the limit for Kelsey. She works at the VA and has already established herself as a master coronary surgeon, doing transplants as well and aortic work. And we're very lucky to have her. Greg Rushing, I thought I was a nice guy. Greg Rushing is the nicest cardiac surgeon. Everybody tells me that, how nice Greg is. And Greg trained at Johns Hopkins, worked at Ohio, trained at Ohio State, and trained at the clinic, and has doubled our Parma program with the work he's done with Pablo, and will be taking on a leadership role with our TAVR program. Rakesh Arora, we were able to recruit recently. Rakesh is an international superstar for those of you who may not know him yet, but you will, and in 6 or 7 months, he's done unbelievable work. Rakesh was being recruited by, I think, Brigham, University of Michigan, South Carolina, Johns Hopkins, I think, spoke to him, Florida. And the fact that he chose to come with us is a testament to the team that we have. And last but not least, Igo Ribeiro, we've been able to recruit, who started with us in March. Igo's trained at the University of Ottawa and also at the Cleveland Clinic. Inigo, we look forward to wonderful things from him. This team, somebody asked us the other day, why is it that we're doing well? And I think we're doing well for many reasons. One is I think we have a great group of surgeons, but we have a great group of surgeons who like each other, who spend time together, whether it's at a football game, having dinner, at a meeting, getting together for a resident's graduation, trying on a banana suit that used to fit Alan Markowitz 30 years ago. And if you're ever looking for Chris or Yasser, if you go to a Harley store, that's probably where they are. And just on and on. I think when you play together and you like each other, you're going to like each other in the operating room. And once in a while, we even let the cardiologists in on the fun. So here are Aaron and Mehdi and Guy joining into the fun of the cardiac surgery group. And I think the secret to our success has been the camaraderie. We've been able to accomplish some amazing things, and I'm incredibly happy for all the people that lead our different programs, whether it's at Ahuja or Illyria or Parma. And if you notice one thing here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to surround the bad guys. So the good guys are in red, and these green guys, they're okay, but we want to be better. Our program has grown not just in terms of quality and quantity, which I'll show you, but the programs that we now offer, whether it's minimally invasive surgery, mid-cab, which I've told you is, I think, the 4th biggest in the country. The Ross procedure that Yakov's been a big part of, along with Joe and everybody else, in terms of sending patients to our Ross program. We'll have done 25, 26 in the first year of that program. Our hypertrophic cardiomyopathy program, which is a multidisciplinary program. Our transplant program, the pulmonary thromboembolectomy program, the AFib program, all these things that we've been able to develop. Since 2011, 2012, the program has more than tripled in size. And now, counting our TAVI volume, has approached around 1,900 cases a year. But you know, I like baseball, and I think you know that a good baseball team is never a good baseball team if you have 25 pitchers or 25 shortstops. And I've talked a lot about the surgeons, and the surgeons have an important role on this team, but the team is a lot more than the surgeons that we have. The team has a great team leader, my friend, my colleague, Mehdi Shishabor. This was at his birthday party. I'd like to borrow that belt sometime. But Mehdi's been an incredible colleague, just an advocate for our program, and a man that we can sit down and we can talk honestly and openly about a lot of things, and it helps us to get ahead and be better at what we're doing. And Mehdi, I really value your leadership in every way. His right-hand man, Eric Hess, here we are at a Pirates game. Eric has been just a rock of stability in our program, and everything that you do behind the scenes, Eric, I value tremendously. And beyond that, I'm not sure if you all realize all the individuals that are involved in the scope of everything that it takes to get a patient through surgery. Our admin staff is here, and Megan is here, and thank you for everything that you do, Megan, Shelby, all of our secretaries, Mercida, China, and where's Doris? Missing Doris. All our clinic nurses, I don't think I can get through the day without Cindy. I think we communicate every day. Cindy, Barb, everybody that's helping us, our perioperative team that helps to get these patients through surgery, our anesthesiology team, which is amazing, the stuff that they do, how good they are. Then our patients go to the ICU, and that entire team with the APPs, the nurses, the physicians, and our Tower 3 APPs. So in order to do this, you need a big team, but there are 3 teams that I want to really give a little bit of a shout out to. Our OR nurses, unbelievable. Our perfusionists, amazing. And our surgical assistants. And these 3 groups, whether we call them the Green Berets or the Navy SEALs, I don't know what you call them, but they're amazing. And again, the thing I think that keeps us going in the operating room is the ability to hang out with each other, to see each other. I've had a chance to meet so many of your wives, your partners, your kids. I know a lot of them by first name, and it's been amazing. I just want to point out one quick thing in this picture. Who's in the middle there with the arms up? Dr. Baeza. We invite them to our graduation ceremonies because they're an important part of our team. The fearless leader, Beth Lash, who organizes all these outstanding events and gets this team together and gets them to work together, whether it's a birthday party for somebody or a ski trip in Holiday Valley. there's just tremendous camaraderie among this OR team. We've had a lot of quality initiatives, and the focus really in the 3 years was not on building the volume that has come. If you build a program that has good quality, the volume will come. And the quality has been built on many different facets, and each of these is a line item, but each of these line items represents hours and hours and hours of work, whether it's the perioperative manual that we built, a 70-page manual that everybody references, whether it's the medication tools and ICU communication tools, or AKI risk scoring system that people like Heather Gornick and the team and Ravi put together. All of these things have contributed to our outcomes. But more importantly is the collaboration with our cardiology colleagues. Whether it's the CHIP program where we discuss these really complex cases, and Bill has been a big part of that, Paul Pumapanit, the CTO program, the TAVR program, which means that I don't have to take somebody to surgery with a 10% mortality. I can work with my friend Giyad Azani or Steve Philby or Anene and get these patients through a TAVI that we would not have been able to do if we did it open. The shock calls that really help us to make decisions on the sickest patients that we have, and we do it as a team so that we all know that we're doing the right program, the right thing. And the MitraClip program, which same thing, has saved lots of patients from having to undergo surgery. But the thing I'm most proud of is this: it's our quality. This is our TAVI program, of which we're a big part of with our interventional cardiology colleagues. Last year, an observed mortality of 0.5%. That puts us in the top 20% of programs in the entire country. And on the cardiac surgery side, we are measured most importantly by one thing. And if you look at this chart, there is some red, and those are areas that we need to improve on, but there's a lot of green. And in the green, you see the process metrics. 100% of our patients receiving the right medications, 100% of them receiving it before the operation on time in a timely manner. And 4 or 5 years ago, those numbers sat at 60, 70, and 80%. And while CABG is the most important thing that we do, last year, all comers, our mortality rate for coronary bypass surgery was 0.9%. The national average is 2.4%. We may not be at 0.9% every year, but the fact that we can be at 0.9% even 1 year tells us the amazing things that we can do. And again, it's a team, and maybe some days we're the pitchers or the shortstop, but you don't win a baseball game without an entire team. We're above the average on every single metric except a couple, and we're improving all the time. And I think there are a lot of things and a lot of ways that we can continue to get better. And we operate 6 programs, and it's tricky sometimes to find out what cases you do where. But I think we have a goal to have the right surgeon do the right procedure at the right place. And if we abide by that goal, I think we'll continue to do well. And we have to learn sometimes to say no. We have to continue to work on our coronary revascularization, look at complex patients maybe a little bit differently, and to continue to have centers of excellence. So this is the last slide, and thank you for indulging me in sharing this with you today. The impact of this professorship means the world to me, and I think it allows us to be even better than what we are. Our goal is to be a national leader, to be a top 10 program, and we have the volume to do that. There's no doubt that we have the volume to do that. What we need is sustained success across our results. If we have results like we did last year, continuously for the next 3 to 5 years, hands down, we will be a top 10 program in the country. Of that, I have no doubt. It's data-driven and it's established. The next step for us is to tell our story. And it's not just about having good results, but it's about publishing good results, being at major meetings, being on the podium, being in conferences. Social media and ratings are important nowadays, and we have some work to do on that. We've done good work, but we need to do more. We want to be a site for research fellowships right now. If we want to hire a medical student to come for the summer, we don't have funding, or it's hard to come up with funding for that. These types of revenue streams, these professorships allow us to do that. We publish about 50 to 60 papers a year as a division. I think we can double that in the next 5 years. We've just been asked to be the International Mid-Cab Registry as of a few days ago. So we will be setting up an International Mid-Cab Registry that will be emanating out of here, out of UH. In the next few months, we'll be starting a robotic program and a training program for that. So there's a lot of exciting stuff to come. I can't thank you enough for being here today, for taking the time out of your busy day just to be here with us for an hour, for my parents and my kids to be here, for Missy, for everybody else. all I can say is thank you, and I look forward to the exciting stuff over the next few years. Thank you.
So, as I said as we started the program, what an honor it is for a dean to be able to present a new endowed professor. And I think, Mark, you bring honor to the Clayman Ankeney family. And we look forward to many years, if not decades, of you holding this chair and being able to maintain your relationship with Dr. Clayman and leading this entire team and effort. And I'm really delighted with what you bring forward to represent this chair. But you get to sit in it now, so let's go. So with that, I get to now identify Mark Pelletier as the J.L. Ankeney, M.D. Professor of Cardiothoracic Surgery. That's what it says in the back of the chair. And you'll be able to, I hope, find room for it in your office. So we're going to celebrate one more time with a clap, and then I'm going to let everybody go out and have a reception while we keep the family, and we're going to take some pictures here and in the backside of the space outside. So congratulations. We'll have the family join you as well. Thank you.